Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining in the session today. I'm looking at taking you through an induction, which is primarily going to be on the course that you've joined, which is the Level 3 Diploma in Health and Social Care, the ATHE Level 3 Diploma in Health and Social Care. So I'm going to be sharing my screen shortly. I will make use of a small notepad to basically draw up an agenda and also to highlight some of the things as we go along and cover during our course induction. Now, I'm looking at covering in the next half an hour or so something in terms of a brief course overview. We're looking at a demonstration of our learner management system, which is Moodle. We are also going to be looking at discussing about assessment and feedback process, and then also look at important bits related to the course, which will include things like Harvard referencing, command verbs, and also looking at giving you an idea in terms of who are the key members in the team that you would be able to get in touch with us either for course administration or essentially requesting tutorials, or in some cases just asking for general information or help regarding the course itself. So with this, I would probably start, and I'm going to share my screen, wherein we're going to start off on the browser window. And on this particular window, I'm going to show you how to access, the platform and some of the content that you need to be able to get hold of the teaching and learning material. Now, when we look at going to the system, we're going to type the word, which is lms.ukversity.co.uk. That is the link to which I would suggest that you need to go to be able to access the the learner management system. Now, one of the easiest way to get to that would be to go onto our website, which is ukversity.co.uk. And on the top here, as you can see, you can click on the link which says Moodle. Now, when you do that, at some stage, it becomes easier because of the fact that you're basically looking at, just about going to the website, and from there you get access to pretty much everything that you need to in terms of going into our system, getting in touch with us, and that is what allows easy access on the website. So you have a phone number, which is also on WhatsApp. You have an email address, and then obviously the link to Moodle and some of our social media channels, should you wish to get in touch with us using that. Now, when I click on this particular option, UK Versity Moodle, it takes you to the Moodle website, and this is where you would have received some emails from my colleagues, which will give you access to the system in terms of your username, and also will give you access to a temporary password. Now, the temporary password is normally sent over, by the system itself. So sometimes it can go across into your junk or spam folder. Now, when you're on the site, there are a couple of things which are outside on the site which you can access. One is we get frequently asked about how to reset your password. So there's a demo which has been created here primarily, which gives you an access without even logging into the system in terms of how to reset your password. There's also a video in terms of should you wish to set up this learner management system on your smartphone or tablet, and you should be able to do that using one of the free applications of Moodle, which is available. So let me click by showing you, before I get into it, to quickly show you how to set this up on your smartphone or tablet. So when I click on this option, it will open up a small video, which basically will ask you to follow the instructions in terms of how to install this. There is an app that you need to download either from the iOS store, Apple Store, or the Google Play Store, and it's a Moodle application with an M and a graduation hat. Now, when you download this application, it's a free application. The advantage of having this on your smartphone or your tablet would be that if you have access to the internet and you're traveling, you have access to the entire course material wherever you are in the world. So this gives you access not just from the PC, Mac, but also it gives you access from tablet or a smartphone or any other device. Now, in order to set this up on your smartphone, you would need three things. So as you can see, first, we need to type the URL of Moodle where it is installed. Then you will type your username and followed by the password that you've set or you've received in terms of the temporary password. When you click login, you'll be able to gain access to the course material. And the advantage there being that, the bits on the Moodle would be accessible to you or the course that you're enrolled would be accessible to you. Now, the reason we ask you to do this is because it allows us to reach out to you using some push notifications. So we can share the calendaring app. We can also message you from Moodle. And obviously, if there are any reminders which are coming through for submission of assignments or any other sessions that we are planned in terms of live webinars, then all this is accessible to you from within the app. Now, one thing that you have to be mindful about is obviously it is a small screen. So when you're using it on your phone, the system would repurpose to adapt to the screen size, but you'll still have full access to the course, which is in terms of unit specification, assignment brief, having the video recorded sessions, the workbooks in some cases which are to be attempted as assignments, or in some cases learner workbooks that you will need to complete when you complete a particular unit and submit it for assessment. So all this would be available through the Moodle platform, and it is quite simple to set up. Should not take more than 30 seconds for you to do so on your tablet or big phone. Just follow the instructions on that video. Now, the second bit which I would want you to do is, sometimes if you forget your username and password, just click on this particular option which says forget your username and password underneath the login. And here is where it asks you to type either your username or your email address. So if I know my username and if I type it, then it will send me, if I click search, it will search me on the system. And if it finds me, it'll ask me to continue. And this will allow me to straight away get a password or a temporary link to be able to log back into the system. Now, this is quite instantaneous, because if I click on this, and if I quickly show you in terms of how this is happening, is that if I click continue, this would have sent a password to my Gmail account, which is associated. And if I just click on this and go into my account, you would see that there's a link email which would have come in from Moodle, if the username is correct, and that would allow me to log back into the system. Now, what I would do also in this case would be, once I know my username and password, I put these details in, and then click on this green arrow, and then it allows me to get into the system. Sorry. Now, for the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to log in as the administrator. And because I'm logged in as the administrator, I see a number of courses, on the system. But when you log in as a user, what you're going to be primarily seeing is just the course that you're enrolled. That means you'll probably see just one tile in your course overview, and that is for the course that you're enrolled. Now, if you click on this particular tile, it will take you into the course, and that would allow you to start studying that course. Now, the other way to get into the course would be to also look at from the top. You have lots of different courses. Now, in some of the courses, if you click and if you're not enrolled as a user, then you will not get access, and it will take you back to the home screen. So in this case, if I look at the healthcare course, when I click on this healthcare tab and go on and choose the course that I'm studying, it will take me into the course itself. And then I see the entire course material, which has been laid out, from a point of view of my studies. Now, before I get into a bit more detail, what I would want to do very briefly would also be to ask you to go in and do a certain, very small activity on Moodle. Now, when you're logged in, you see your name. There's a small downward arrow. If you click on that, it shows you your dashboard. It takes you to your profile. Click on profile. And when you're on your profile, you should be able to basically see everything which has been set up for you on the system. Now, one of the things which I'll ask you to do is under user details, you see edit profile. So go into edit profile, and you can go and edit your profile here. There are certain areas which you cannot change, like your name, address, or email, because they are controlled by us. But what I would suggest you to do is go into the description box and write something about yourself, so that when tutors log in and they see you online, they should be able to see a bit of a profile or a background about you. You can also upload your picture by clicking on this downward arrow, choose a file from the system or from your desktop. And otherwise, the other option clear would be to just drag anything into this box and leave it, and it'll upload the file, and that will become the picture that you want to upload about yourself onto the system. Now, because there are lots of users on the learner management system, sometimes when they're online and you're online, you would be able to basically chat with them, network with them. So it is all the more important for you to put in your first name, full name, and your details, your interests, hobbies, and any other optional extras that you would want to put through, and that would be useful. Now, once you've done this, and if you want to go back to your dashboard, what you can do is just click on the logo or click on home, and it will take you back to the home page where you would see your course. Now, let's look at briefly, quickly understanding what is the layout on how the material that you're going to learn from in terms of teaching and learning material is laid out on Moodle. Now, when you are in the section, this particular area, which I'm just going to quickly highlight, is going to be the pre-enrollment area of the course. That means these are documents that we expect you to go through before you even start actually, reading into or studying the course with us. Now, these particular things will consist of things like the course handbook. There'll be a user manual for Moodle, which is to explain how to use the learner management system. There is some bits and pieces which are important documents like command verbs when you start doing an assignment, what makes a good assignment, and obviously how a referencing presentation, and also a video which is available for you to watch. Now, some of these bits we'll quickly go through as we go through in the course induction. But for now, what I also want to do is highlight that there are 4 units which are going to be clearly labeled out in your course. So the first unit is health and social care sector. The second one is person-centered approach. The third is academic and research skills. The last one is communication skills. Now, how we have laid them out as far as the units are concerned, what you're going to see is there are a couple of different types of documents that you are going to see, which are going to be available for you to access on Moodle. Now, most of the documents are going to be PDF because these documents do not change. They are awarding body documents. They are version controlled, and that is why they are available to you as PDF. There are going to be some video recorded lectures that you're going to watch, and these lectures would be essentially presentations, audio visual in nature, and they will take you through the learning outcomes of the unit. Towards the end, you'll have a Word document, which will be a workbook that you can download. And this workbook essentially is the workbook that you need to be able to then complete to achieve this particular unit. So this is the assignment or the workbook that you will complete for this course. And this workbook, once completed, will be sent back to us for assessment. And the assessors will look at the work that you've submitted, check it against the guidelines from the awarding body, and then basically give you a grade. And each of the units as you complete would then lead to a final certification. So the layout is quite clear as far as I'm, just to share with you. You have some PDF documents, which is going to be the first document is going to be called the unit specification. Then you'll have the assignment brief. Then there's a recommended ebook, which is recommended for study for this particular unit. And then you have the video recorded lectures. Then you have the assignment discussion session, wherein we are explaining how to go about doing the assignment. And then you use the assignment workbook, which has been created to complete that particular assignment. Now, apart from this, the same layout is available across the 4 units. There is not much difference in terms of how the documents are laid out. In some cases, there will be more than one ebook because we do feel that the content of the books does not cover all the bits which are required to study the unit. So in those cases, you will see that there is more than one ebook available for a particular unit. Sorry. Now, if I go back to the, if I need to navigate on this, what you're going to clearly see is that on this side, it's a 2-column format. You see the course on this side, and then you have your navigation to go in and out of the course, or maybe look at some of the other bits like your profile, editing your profile, going to your dashboard, which is on the right-hand side. So the system is what you see is what you get. It's a simple enough system. There's nothing which can go wrong. All you have to do is basically look at clicking on a particular document. PDF documents in general, when you click, they will open on your screen. As this course handbook is opened up, you can go through these documents. Should you wish to download these documents, you need to click on the downward arrow, and it will allow you to save this document on your local PC or your Mac. And if you need to go back, then if you click on some of the Word documents, they will essentially download to your PC first. And once you download them, then you can open them on your PC because they will require an associated application for you to be able to open them up. And the Video documents that you see, which are the video recorded lectures, when you click, they will play on the cloud. And these are recorded lectures, quite detailed, which basically cover the content of the unit broken down into learning outcomes. So I hope with this first part, in this session, you are quite clear in terms of how to access Moodle, how to log into Moodle, what is the teaching and learning material available, and how you would go about accessing this particular platform, which is the learner management system, or Moodle essentially, as we call it. Now I'll move to the second part, which I want to take you through in terms of discussing some of the key documents which are uploaded here. One of the first things what I want to do is basically take you through a bit of an understanding of the course and an overview of the course. Now, this is a course handbook which has been designed by ATHE. We use the same course handbook. It's a 32-page document, but there are a few pages in the course handbook which are quite useful for you to understand. And I would suggest that this could be a bit of a bedside reading that you want to do to familiarize yourself with the awarding organization, the reasons for doing this qualification, how it has been approved, what is the qualification number, what are the units that you're going to, how many units and what units are you going to study, and how they are assessed, and basic bits about it. So let's look at this briefly in terms of the course overview. Now, the course is the Level 3 Diploma in Health and Social Care, and the awarding body or the organization which will issue the diploma is going to be ATHE. Now, should you wish to look at the qualification on off-call register, this is the qualification number that you would need to have, and this would give you, the details that this is a registered qualification approved for delivery in the UK, in England and Wales, and obviously valid globally. Now, if I go into details, you met the entry requirements. That is why you are here. You're over the age of 16. You have done at least 12 years of schooling, and you have a good command on the English language, which are basic requirements for you to have, because in order to study this course, these are the eligibility criteria that you need to fulfill. Now, in terms of progression, assuming when you complete this qualification, and should you wish to go further and further with your studies, you can either join the Level 4 Diploma in Health and Social Care, or you can take an entry into the university into a 3-year degree course, which will be a bachelor's in health and social care. Now, there are bits which are explained, which I'll not go through right now, but things in terms of what is a guided learning hour, what is the total qualification time. These are bits that you can go through, which will give you a bit more idea in terms of how the qualification is designed, why this is to be studied in this particular fashion, and there is the time that you need to put in to be able to achieve and confidently say that I've studied this, I've studied the 4 units and I'm happy achieving the grade that I want to achieve in this qualification. Now, one of the things which I want to point out is that there are 4 units. Each of the unit is 15 credits. So the total credits that you will get for the qualification is going to be 60 credits for this diploma, and approximately requires 600 hours for you to be able to complete this qualification. Some learners do it quicker. Some learners would take the usual recommended time, but it is down to the individual pace at which you study this particular course. Now, there are no exams in this qualification. Everything is going to be assessed through assignments. I think in the UK education system, when you look at, there are no exams after your 12 years of schooling. It is primarily going to be based on the assessments that we do of your academically written assignments, and these assignments are graded. So you'll have a pass, ability to be able to achieve a pass, merit, or distinction. Now, there are various methods of assessment. Again, there are lots of different methods. There are 16 different methods, but I'll not go into them in detail right now. But for the modules and the units that you will study in this particular course, there are going to be generally 2 or 3 forms of assessment. The first would be, in some cases, you're required to prepare a PowerPoint presentation with speaker notes. The second assessment is going to be a Word document or a Word document report that you need to produce in order to provide evidence for the tasks that you're attempting in the assignment brief. In a small number of cases, you would also be required to use things like tables, flowchart, or create a mind map, and they would be very specific to a few tasks and activities which are there in certain modules of this particular course. But generally, you'll have 2 or 3 methods of assessment, and they will predominantly rotate between a Word document or a report, and the second would be a PowerPoint presentation with speaker notes. Now, there's a logic to the grading structure in terms of how you achieve a pass grade or a merit grade. It's not going to be down to me that you're my favorite student and I like you, and that's why I'm going to give you a higher grade like distinction. No, there is a logic which the awarding organization is, created, and that grading structure is explained here. So if I briefly explain this to you now, when you look at a particular unit specification, which is this that you get to see, each of the tasks or the assessment criteria which are given are roughly 5 points. So if you do all the pass criteria, you're going to be looking at achieving between 40 to 45 points, and that would give you only a pass. Now, should you wish to achieve merit, then you have to do all the pass criteria, and you also to attempt the merit criteria, and you will be looking at achieving anywhere between 50 to 55 points, and that would move your grade to merit. And should you wish to achieve distinction, that means you have to do everything, and you're looking at about 60 to 75 points, depending on the units and the assessment criteria, and that is where your overall grade for the unit will move to distinction. So there's a set specific criteria behind it, and sometimes it is important to note, which I would say it's important to note right now, is because universities, when you take admission in universities, they give criteria, more credence to higher grades, which is merit and distinction. So should you wish to look at pursuing further after this higher education and study further, then it will be important for you to look at achieving the highest grades, which is obviously also going to look good on your CV, and at the same time, essentially, gives you a better chance of, getting admission into the uni. Now, all the resources in terms of teaching and learning we will provide, so you don't need to look at buying any books or any other material which is required to study this particular course with us, and they will all be provided to you from this particular system. Now, parts of this handbook, after the page 15, we have extracted and uploaded them as individual in the individual units. So these are what are called unit specifications, which is important because that is what the lecturer uses to teach the unit. Now, we don't teach you the unit in one go. We break the unit down into what is called learning outcomes. And in each learning outcome, there are some assessment criteria. So when you see a particular learning outcome recording, like LO1, session LO1 or session LO2, that means the lecture is just covering part of the unit in that particular video lecture, which is recorded, and we'll be going through covering some of these assessment criteria with the help of a PowerPoint presentation. And sometimes in the recordings, you would also hear learners asking the question, because we don't edit the recordings, and these are not computer generated recordings, but live lectures that we use primarily, to teach the course. So this particular unit, if you see, would have one learning outcome, there is second, and there is third. So this unit is going to be completed in 4 lectures, because there are 3 lectures to cover 3 learning outcomes, and the 4th lecture is going to be used to discuss the assignment brief for this particular unit. And this will go on for all the units as we teach you, and you go through the recorded lectures on Moodle. Now, what are we teaching in those learning outcomes is given here. So essentially, it's not something that I can teach you anything to say this is what is there, this is what is there. No, we've been given guidelines to cover what is required to be taught in this unit, and those are given across in the indicative content that you see in the unit specification. So each of these have been extracted out and are now available individually in each of the units, and these are what are called, in short, sometimes we refer to them as what are called the unit specification, or US. So unit specification. And the assignment briefs are called AB. That means after you complete the unit and you're having to then do the assignment, you would see the same unit specification morphs into what is called an assignment brief, because the assignment brief will be a combination of all the assessment criteria that are given out in the unit, and they will be converted into tasks for you to attempt. So at some stage, it will be good for you to go through this course handbook, because it will give you an overview, a bird's eye over the qualification, the units, the modules, the assessment strategy, or how you're going to be assessed on the assignments, and then the grading criteria, which is there. So one of the good documents to read before you start going into the course. The second one that I would suggest would be to look at, some of the important bits at some stage which you will need, would be called Harvard referencing. And the third one is going to be, what is called command verbs. Now, in the UK education system, what you have to do is when we do an assignment or when we, obviously bring material into our own work, whether it's coming from websites, articles, journals, electronic material, or it is coming from books and journals, we still have to give credit to the author who has actually created that particular framework definition or is, essentially the owner of that work. And in the UK education system, there are lots of different referencing, but in particular, we generally use Harvard Anglia referencing system. So it's called Harvard referencing. Now, this presentation will familiarize you with referencing. And if you haven't done or used referencing in the past, then what I would suggest is it's a good, it'll be good for you to go through the bits on Harvard referencing, because it'll make you familiar with how this is to be used while you do your assignment or you're completing your workbook. Now, referencing can be done in two ways. One, through the use of books. Second, through the use of journals, articles. And the third could be using electronic published resources. Now, when you bring this into your own work, you basically have to, you have two ways of doing it. One is you use direct quotations. That means if you're picking up something as it is, which is like literally copying and pasting, then you have to put that in inverted commas, and that is called direct quotes. And then when you read something and then you write it in your own words without altering the meaning of the text, then in that case, it is called paraphrasing, but you still have to reference it or give credit to the author who has actually created that text, paragraph, framework, definition, whatever that may be. Now, we need to reference in some cases wherein you need to build arguments and you need to show and talk about factual points in your assessment, in your assignment to justify them. And that is why referencing is there. Now, if I give you an example that I'm going to say, today the world's population is 9 billion. Now, this is a statement which I've made, but there is no way that I can actually, if there is no way that I can verify this statement, then this is something which is false. This is not going to be true. So when I say, according to the World Trachometer, the population of the Earth today is 7.79 billion, then I'm using the World Trachometer as a reference to basically quote that this is the actual count of the world population as of date. And because it is being tracked on that site electronically, and I'm using it to get that data from there, I need to reference it to say that this is the place where I've got this data from, and also to show that this is something which is factual and accurate that I'm quoting and not something that I've made myself. So in these cases, we need to follow, and this is one of the reasons that we need to follow referencing. Now, Harvard referencing is also called the author date style referencing. So if you have one author, you use the first name and the year in the brackets, in which it was, in which the author has actually generated that idea or provided that framework or definition. And in some cases, when you're using direct quotes, you have to also do a colon and put the page number in, which basically goes to show that this has been taken from this and this book, and that's the page or the reference from which it has been taken. If there are two authors, we use the last name. If there are three authors, you use the last name of the three authors. And if it is more than three, then we use the terminology et al, which means Morris and team. And that basically goes to show that there are a number of people associated with creation of that fact, article, journal, publishing, material, whatever it is. And this presentation would take you through in terms of understanding how it is done. And then later on, towards the end of your assignment, you need to create what is called a bibliography list, which is a detail of what references have been used in terms of doing the assignment. So basically, you write the author's name, last name, and the first name, initial, in brackets, the year. Then you put the name of the book or the article or the journal or the website, and then basically the publisher, which is basically printed or published that book. So this is the format that we need to follow as far as Harvard referencing is concerned. Now, some of you, if you're familiar with how referencing is done on Microsoft Word, I'm going to quickly take you through a very brief tutorial on that. I'm going to show you Microsoft Word in terms of how we go about, basically referencing, work when we talk about a Word document. So I'm going to just quickly open up any one particular document just for the sake of showing you how referencing can be done, using Word document. So let me share this particular bit in terms of the unit. Now, this is an assignment which a learner has submitted. And as you can see, this Word document, what we're going to do is using Microsoft Word, I'm going to look at doing some referencing into this particular document. Now, when I scroll through, what I would do is first things first, if I go on the top, click on the word tab reference, and then in reference, there is an option. There are so many different types of referencing system. We use Harvard Anglia. We click on Harvard Anglia. That means now the referencing system has been set to Harvard referencing. Now, how do I do referencing? For example, going into one of the tasks primarily for this assignment, just very randomly here, for example, if it talks about how do you create a personal development plan. Now, if I just let me briefly share my full screen, so you'll be able to see what I'm doing with regards to the website as well. So now when you see the full screen, what I would do is open up a fresh window here. Now, assuming there was a question or a task in the assignment which says task 1, what are the 4 P's of marketing? Now, if this was the task given and I had to talk about this, so I know that 4 P's of marketing essentially are bits which are important, which have been created by Jerome McCarthy in the early or late 60s. And this has become quite synonymous with most manufacturers now looking at deciding price, product, place, and promotion before they actually sell the product to the consumer in the market. Now, if I had to talk about these 4 P's of marketing and I have to explain, so what I would do is if I'm copying it as it is, because it's a definition, the 4 P's of marketing as defined by Jerome, so it is McCarthy R, comma, if I'm copying it as it is from the website, what I would do is basically use the inverted commas. And because I've copied it as it is, I can't change anything because it's a definition. What I'm going to do is now add a reference. So what I will do is go on to the references tab, click on insert citation. And on the insert citation, so on the insert citation, what I'm going to use is use the source. So the source that I've used here is a website, and I click on the website. I go onto the website and I click on it. And here, first things first, what I need to do is write about the author. Who is the author of this particular article? Now, if I normally go and scroll on the website and see, sometimes you would be able to clearly see who's the author of this particular material that I'm copying. So in this case, what I'm going to do is write the author, which is the Mind Tools content team, because that is given here. There is no specific author which is given. Now, what is the name of the web page? The name of the web page, copy it here. What is the URL? I'll copy the URL here. Now, in which year was it published? Sometimes, when you are on the web page, it will also give you the year or the date on which the page was actually published. Now, if it is very difficult to find, then one bit would be to put this out as by going through in a bit more detail. So as of now, as you can see, ratings wise, it says 2021. So what I'm going to do is, and in which year I'm accessing it, 2022, month is March, and today's date is 2nd. So when I click and fill all these fields, click OK, you would see that it puts a reference here in the Harvard referencing system. And this is how I would go about actually, putting references while I compile the evidence, for the task. Now, the other way of doing this would be paraphrasing. So if I was to write the definition of 4 P's of marketing, but read it and then write it in my own words, so I would say the marketing mix is defined as a fundamental model which is used by most companies to decide product, place, price, and promotion before they sell them in the market to consumers. This concept was originally introduced by Jerome McCarthy and is now very widely accepted as the marketing mix by businesses. So if this is something that I have now, read from somewhere, and I've written it in my own words without changing the meaning of it, what I would need to do is still put it into context in some of the referencing, because this is not something which I produced. This is something which is already there, but I have to give credit to the author. So here again, what I'm going to do is, I know that this is something which Jerome McCarthy had introduced, and this was introduced in 1969. So what I'm going to do is put this reference here, and that would be a reference. Now, this is a manual way of putting it, but if I had to do it, and assuming that this was something which I had read from a book, what I would do is go into insert citation, choose a book. Now, the author of the book is Philip Kotler. The title of the book is Marketing Principles and Techniques. The city in which it was published was New York. The publisher is Macmillan. Year in which was published first was 2014, and it's the 19th edition that we are looking at right now for this particular book. So because I know all the details, I've filled it up by heart. So what I will do is click OK, and that will put a reference here, which is saying Kotler 2014. Now, if you follow this system through, this is what is called Harvard referencing. And assuming you come to the end of your assignment, and you have to generate a list of all the references that you've used in the document, what I'll do is I'll click on bibliography. And when I click on bibliography and I'll click here, it will automatically bring all the references that I've used in the assignment, and it'll put them alphabetically with all the details that I've filled into with regards to this particular work. So if I just show this to you briefly by going into a new document and putting this here, rather than in the previous one, do a page break and then put the bibliography, you would see that this is how it brings it up. So it'll bring it up in terms of the books will come first, the articles and journals come second, and then any electronic referencing which has been done gets put up towards the end. And as you can see, it puts the date on which it was accessed, and all the information that I'm putting in that comes into this particular bit. So this bit on the Harvard referencing is very important, because when you bring in your work and we have to scan it for plagiarism or similarity, this will be utilized to see that how much of the work that you presented has actually been referenced and not been blatantly copied from any source. So this would be a useful presentation that I would suggest you go through. And you can also look at watching this particular video, which can be made full screen. In about 4 minutes, it explains to you how Harvard referencing can be done, and would be very useful for you to get started if you're new to referencing as a system. So I hope this allows you to understand the course overview, the units that you have to cover, Harvard referencing, and bits and pieces in terms of Moodle and the Moodle platform. Now let's go across to the last section, which is talking about assessment and feedback. Now, how is the assessment and feedback given by the lecturers? Now, when you submit your assignment, where do you submit your assignment? So let me open that same document again, which is the assignment. And when you submit your assignment, you're going to submit the assignment to us, at learner. So once you complete the assignment, submission of assignment, where it is to be done. So this is to be sent to this email, which is learnerwork@ukversity.co.uk. And this is a monitored mailbox, which allows us to receive the assignment, but you also get an acknowledgement receipt, which says that, your work has now been received, and it is going to be marked by the lecturer. And that would give you some timeline that, okay, this is something which is now with the college for the purposes of assessment. Now, when we give you assessment on the assignment, what we do is we expect that you are going to submit the assignment as a Word document or as a PowerPoint presentation, so that we can actually give comments on that. Now, when we look at commenting, what we then tend to do is open the review section on a Word document, and we'll make some comments on the right-hand side, which you are going to see here, for example. Now, these comments on the right-hand side will essentially guide you whether you've achieved the task, you have not achieved the task, if there's something which needs to be added or needs to be changed, and they are going to be quite detailed. The reason why we do this is because we want you to understand where you are doing things correctly, where you are not doing things correctly, and what needs to be added, amended, or changed to be able to achieve that particular task. Now, this document, when you receive back, and if you make any changes into it, depending on the comments which are given here, then the changes have to be highlighted in yellow, like this. And the reason we ask you to highlight them in yellow is so that next time when you email this assignment back to us, the lecturer can quickly check that this was the comment given, and this is the change that you made, and now is it meeting the criteria or not. And once this criteria has been met, then at some stage, what will happen is you would receive what is called, an assessment feedback with a grade assigned to you, and that would be the full and final grade that you've achieved, in a particular unit or for a particular assignment. So when we look at sending over the, work to you with regards to completion of the work, what you're going to be able to see then is basically a front cover sheet, which is an assessment sheet confirming that the assessment which the assessor has done on the work that you've submitted, and that assessment will confirm and confirm a grade to you as well. So it'll have basic details why we think you've achieved the task, as you can see, and then some summative feedback which has been given here, and a grade that you've achieved, which is also being signed off by the quality manager. So this is your proof and information and for records to keep that I have completed a particular unit and I've been awarded this particular grade, and then you can move on to the next one. So when we look at the feedback that you get on the assignment, if I just again share my full screen, the feedback that you get on the assignment, which is the this one here on the left, this one is going to be called summative feedback, formative feedback, which is ongoing feedback. And when you get a full and final feedback with the grade awarded and the document signed by the quality manager, this part of the feedback is now called summative feedback, which means it's the final grade, and this is what is put forward for certification that you would receive once you complete all the units in your course. So in terms, when you submit your work, you're going to get 3 things back from us after the assessment. And these 3 things back that you get of the assessment would include 1, a plug scan report, which will say how much similarity that you have. Your similarity should be less than 20%. Otherwise, we will obviously flag this off as plagiarism, and you will get a copy of this report to say that could you now look at the report which is showing in traffic light system, what have you copied, and that has not been referenced, so you need to paraphrase and reference it. You will get what is called the annotated feedback Word document or the PowerPoint presentation back, and the third would be the summative feedback with the grade assigned, and that would be called the front cover sheet. Now, when you get these 3 documents back, you know that for your records, you've completed this unit, you know for your records that you've achieved a grade, and now then you can move on to the next unit. Now, typically for your course, there are different tutors. So if I talk about the health and social care course in particular, there are 3 tutors that you can go across to. One is Kulshan, second is Mr. Anjum, third is Mr. Raman. Now, these 3 tutors essentially would be able to teach, and obviously when you listen into some of the lectures, you're going to see that some of the lectures and some of the units that they've taught are the units which they have taught primarily because they are experts in those units. Now, when you need to reach us for any queries, for example, queries on tasks or assignments, essentially you're going to use the same email, which is learnerwork@ukversity.co.uk, because this is a shared email box which is with all the assessors. So they will pick up your email and you get a response in a couple of hours. if you have any issues or inquiries related to, journal inquiries, which is, okay, say for example, if the recording is not working or you have an issue with accessing the system, then those is what I would call as IT queries, and they would be raised across to one of my colleagues, Mr. Victor, and he would be available on IT@ukversity.co.uk. And should you wish to speak to a tutor, arrange for a tutorial, then in those cases, you're going to go across to one of the course coordinators, and these course coordinators would then basically look at. Now, my suggestion to you would be, when you send an email to the coordinator, you would be required to basically give in 2 dates and times which are going to be suitable and convenient for you to attend a one-on-one tutorial. And you would need to specify which unit you want to do the tutorial on, what date, and preferably time. So give us 2 dates and time so that the coordinators can actually, look at, doing this particular scheduling in a way wherein you are able to attend and the tutor who is teaching that unit is able to answer your query. Now, they could be Aman, it could be one of my colleagues, Catherine, it could be also going across to Amrita. So these are 3 or 4 people that you could write to on the coordinator email, and they would be then looking at speaking to you over the phone or by email, and then scheduling a tutorial with the tutor. Now, one of the last things which I want to briefly touch on in the induction with regards to the course itself is the bit on how do you reach us, at the college or at the center. Now, there are 3 ways that you can obviously get in touch with us, and they include, by phone. So if you note down this number, if you're calling us internationally, then you'll have to add 0044. The area code is 161 and 2734745. So that's the switchboard. Email wise, I would suggest, depending on your inquiry, you can either send it to admissions, which is short form for admin. But generally, this would be an email that you would not use because you have already now enrolled into the course, inducted into the course. But if you have tutorial requests or queries related to the course or course material, then you would either write to learner work if it's a query related to the course itself, or in some cases, if you're looking at going for tutorials or you need help to speak to the tutor, then it will be coordinator. Now, you would have received a couple of emails from us, which I would suggest that you need to go through before you start your course. One is the video induction email, which is a video that you need to watch to basically familiarize yourself with the system, how the course is going to be run, who are the key people in the course, who are your tutors, and obviously how the assessment feedback and the process of certification and getting in touch with us works. The second would be email for your Moodle, a learner management system, and a couple of emails which are basically emails related to your course, and they would all have been you would have received all those emails by now when you're watching this particular session. So I hope this session has been useful, and it allows you to confidently look at starting your course with us, and hopefully answers lots and lots of queries or questions that you might have with regards to how to begin study and how to go about following the course. Now, one last thing which I would give as a bit of a suggestion would be, I would say there is no particular order in which you need to study these units, but I would still suggest that follow the order in which the units have been organized, because what we've tried to do is try to give you the units first, which are easy to cover. They are the ones that you need to start with first, and then go on to, as you start building your knowledge and skills, you'd be then able to go and complete some of the other units. So they've been organized in a particular fashion, but you are free to start any unit at any given stage. And my suggestion would be to go through the unit specification document first for the unit, which is this document. Gives you a good overview of what you're going to be looking at studying, the content that you're covering. After that, I would suggest go in and listen into the lectures of each of the learning outcomes, which will give you the knowledge required to say that this is something that needs to be covered. And then at a later stage, go on and listen into the assignment discussion session, which will give you a guidance and steer in terms of how you need to go about doing the assignment, and then download the workbook and start writing the tasks and filling the workbook up so that you're able to send it across to us for assessment and feedback. So I hope this session, video induction session, has been useful, and I look forward to obviously speaking to you in the coming days and weeks as you study the course with us. For any queries, any questions, feel free to drop us an email or use a phone call. And the third would be to look at getting in touch with the WhatsApp. So basically, these are the three ways that you can get in touch with us. And on WhatsApp, we have a dedicated number that you can reach us on for quick queries, essentially. And these quick queries can be sent to us on this particular number on WhatsApp. I'm just going to flash that on your screen. If you just give me 1 second. And that is the number that you would see would be very useful if you add it to your saved numbers list, and that would allow you to essentially get in touch with us should you have something quite urgent. So that's the number that I'm going to put here, which is the WhatsApp number, and that is this particular number that you see on your screen. So these are the three ways: the switchboard, the email address, depending on which email and what you're writing us to for, and then the WhatsApp number that you can add, which will allow you to get in touch with us quite quickly if you have a very urgent query or a question. Thanks for watching, and all the best.